Azar, right?
Azar, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Tom Gaddis in the house. Tom, thanks for doing this. It was an honor and a privilege meeting you just this month at the Dallas High Level Advanced Entrepreneur event. It was fantastic. I got to hang out with amazing people like Tom. Tom has a resume, and I really wanted him. I just wanted some of this time to kind of do a one-on-one with him, but also bring his story in front of all of you guys, and see what he's done is completely phenomenal. So co-founder of Offline Sharks and the chief marketing officer at 808 Agency Hawaii. So I'm jealous already. And just an amazing and a passionate person. I got to spend 3 days with him in a room, and very contagious energy, and an amazing agency owner, a coach, and a mentor. Perfect for people listening to this podcast. And Tom, thanks for coming on the show. Tell us who Tom Gaddis is. Like, how did you come from, first of all, moving to Hawaii? I think you're not originally from there. And then, working out your agency, and then Online Shark. Like, this is a big story. Like, can you sum it up for us in 20 seconds? Just kidding.
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate the kind words. It was awesome hanging out with you too. And what gave it away that I'm not originally from Hawaii? I don't.
Well,
why
I
would
think
you? Is it
I
the
spent
notes?
3 days with you.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm originally from Oklahoma, and my background is restaurant management. So I was a corporate restaurant manager for a long time, and I dabbled in internet marketing on the side. So for a while, way back, I was trying to do affiliate marketing and other ways to make money online, and I was having zero success with those efforts. And someone told me, they were like, "Hey, look, because I was learning affiliate marketing, I was learning things like how to build websites. I was learning how to do SEO. I was learning about social media management. There was a brand new thing right on the scene then called, I don't know if you ever heard of it, called Facebook. They were just like coming around, and so businesses were trying to get on that. And somebody said, like, hey, like, you have these skills, like, you know how to do these things. And there are local businesses in your area that have no idea how to do this stuff. Like, you could go and offer to help them with these online things and get paid. And so I reached out to an auto mechanic and was like, gave them a little pitch, and they were like, yeah, well, we're down, come on in. And I went in that afternoon, and they handed me a check for $800. And I was like,
Nice.
So all this, I mean, I've been spending a year on affiliate marketing and not a dime, and like, they just give me $800 like that. And I was like, well, maybe there's something to this. So I kind of dabbled in the side, and in 2010 my wife and I decided to move to Hawaii, to Maui. So my wife had lived in Maui before, but I had never even been to Hawaii. And my plan was, I was ready to not be a restaurant manager anymore. So my plan was, we move to Maui and I start an agency. And my wife was like, hey, you've never even been to Hawaii. Like, maybe you should have a job when we get there, and try to do this business thing on the side. And so I got a job as a restaurant manager at the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company right on Front Street in Maui. We get there, I start working there. 8 months in, I get canned. And now I'm like, well, now what? So I thought, well, like, here's my chance, right? Like, I started collecting unemployment, and I thought, well, I'm just going to try to build this business on the side. I started trying to do a lot of different things: mobile marketing, SEO, social media management. Again, just not really able to get any traction with any of that stuff. And then in 2011, 2012, I came across a direct mail thing. And it's basically like this jumbo postcard, and you sell ad spots on each side, and you mail it out to like 10,000 residents. And so I started walking into businesses and I sold 14 spots in 7 days. I collected $7,000 in total revenue, 3,000 of which was pure profit. And I had 14 paying clients. Like I had 14 people that had paid me $500. And so I went back to those people and was like, hey, when I was putting your ad on here, I noticed your website doesn't look good. I noticed you're not in Google Maps. And so I started selling agency services on the back end of this direct mail thing. And that direct mail thing started to take off. And eventually I was doing 6 figures with that. And one of the things that has always stuck to me is something Jay Abraham said when he said, like, if you can do something, like you have an obligation to turn around and show other people how to do that thing, shine a light on the path. And so in 2015, I thought, well, look, I'll make a little course and I will teach people how I'm doing this direct mail thing. And so I made this little course showing how I was doing it. And I put it up on this site called Warrior Plus, and I sold 2,000 copies in 4 days. And I was like, now I had this email list of people that were trying to build an agency. And at the same time, I had met another guy in Maui. His name is Nick Ponte, who was getting his agency going as well. And I was like, hey, look, I have this other thing. I launched this course. I have an email list. Like, I want to continue to put out more courses about what I'm doing in my agency. But like, maybe you want to help me. What if we partner up on this? And so luckily, he said yes. And so in 2016, we started Offline Sharks, and we started putting out like low cost courses. Think $27, teaching people usually like a strategy on how to get clients. All things that we were pulling from our agency. So this is one thing, Azar, that has, I think, really set us apart. Is today, right now, we have an agency in Hawaii. We're rebranding it. So the 808 Hawaii agency is the new brand name. It's called Nick Ponte Marketing. So nickponte.com. If you go to Google and you put in Maui SEO, Hawaii SEO, any of that stuff, we rank #1. So that agency in Hawaii does over 7 figures. And we only have about 55 clients. So nice. The best part of it is, though, we spend zero time in that agency. It is all built out. Like, we do none of the prospecting. We do none of the fulfillment. We do none of the client meetings. Like, we've built out a whole system. And so over the years, we, like, all the stuff that we put out at Offline Charts has been about how we're doing all that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it. Yeah. So we got 2 things. We've got the agency, completely separate business. It has nothing to do with Offline Sharks. It generates a little over $1 million. I think we did 1.2 million last year. I think we're on track to do 2 million this year. And then we have Offline Sharks, where we teach people what we're doing there in the agency.
That's awesome, man. What a great story, man. I was just like right there with you, man. Trying walking in those local businesses, trying to sell that newsletter type newspapers that they used to have. They still may have somewhere in these restaurants, right? Is that what you were talking about?
So mine was like here, hold on one second. I'll show you. This is what the thing is.
Okay.
So this is a card that gets put in their mailbox like this.
Okay.
So when they pop it out, there's all these local restaurants, right? And I charged $500 for these. My big line used to be, people would say, well, what about Valpak? And I would say, well, I have 100% open rate.
So how did you get to that? Like, from, and I want to move to the real story as well, but this is very interesting to me. How did you get from being a restaurant manager to, trying to do something online, and then coming across this completely offline, having something in the mailbox, and then again building an agency literally on the back of this offline gig you were doing? Like, what led you to kind of do this?
So really just like results I was getting. And, in the beginning, it was like I was just trying everything because I was just trying to find something that would work. And I was very naive, very naive. Like I thought, so when I got to Maui, almost no businesses on Maui had a mobile website. And I thought, this is a gold mine. I am just going to rake it in selling
Yeah.
mobile websites. I could not sell a mobile website to save my life. Like the businesses just were not receptive to that. And what it was Hawaii in general. When people live there, it's a very closed kind of community. Like they're very skeptical of new people that have not been there for a while, people from the outside coming in. And so, and they're kind of like, they lag behind when it comes to technology. So I just wasn't getting any traction with any of these strict digital online stuff. And so I thought, well, what the heck? Like, I'm going to try this old school thing and we'll see what happens. They ate that thing up. And this was the key. Once they bought a spot and once these started like going out in the mail, I now had credibility. Because I would walk into a business and they'd be like, oh, yeah, I saw this. I got this in my mailbox. Like they all of a sudden knew I was the real deal. You know what I mean? And it opened up a ton of doors. And also, this thing with what I priced it at, like I wasn't going to get rich doing this. But it was really a foot in the door strategy. Like I wasn't really concerned with making money from the mailer itself, although I always did make a little bit of money. My goal really was once I get them on that and now I have that relationship, I can start selling them website redesign and SEO and Google Business Profile services. And that was where that's where I made the money for the agency, right? Not in doing the mailing thing.
And how did you, that's fantastic, man. Like, I think that's a great Genesis story. You had that vision, like a perfect visionary going in and kind of coming up with this entry level foot in the door offer, turning it into a successful agency over the last, 14 years now, man. It's been in Hawaii.
Yeah, so Nick and I merged the agencies a while back. So now we just have the one agency, nickponte.com. You can go check the agency out there. We're currently rebranding it so that it's not branded to his name. But Nick is still in Hawaii. So, you'll notice like on this mailer, this says, there's this little corner here, this HT, wherever it's at. If I can find my finger to get there.
Yeah, I see the HT, Hawaii Thrive.
Hawaii Thrive. So what we did eventually was we have a site called hawaiithrive.com. And it's a list of all local businesses in Hawaii. The point of Hawaii Thrive is to support Hawaii businesses. We now use that online site as our foot in the door with Hawaii businesses. So when we're marketing to Hawaii businesses, we're not coming at them as an agency. We're coming at them from hawaiithrive.com. And it almost sounds like a nonprofit, right? Almost sounds like maybe it's part of the government. Like it definitely doesn't sound like an agency. And so like our current strategy is we give Hawaii businesses a free listing on that site. Yeah. And then we reach out to them and we just say, hey, we're from Hawaii Thrive. We gave you a free listing. We want to make sure your business information is correct. We get them on an email list. So we have an email list of about 4,000 Hawaii businesses right now that we email regularly. We send them case studies. We send them a newsletter. And now we're building up authority, credibility. We get a lot of clients from that. And we're able to show like, hey, look, we're here helping the community. Like, we're not just here to sell you marketing stuff. Like,
I think that really stands out in your story where, even though you were an outsider, but like over the last, working in the community, being there for the last 14 years, you're kind of like now a part of the good old boys club there because you guys are really entrenched in the local Hawaii market, and it's anyone coming in, and how the local market is, like you said, that these guys are on a different, they're on a Hawaii time, right? So everything is going to be a little bit more laid back. They're not going to trust you right away, and it's going to take some time. So it required a company exactly like what you guys are doing to go into that pocket and build out this amazing agency that you built out.
Yeah, it was interesting. My business partner was just at an event and he got put at a table with the mayor. And the mayor was like, "Oh, yeah, I get your newsletter from HawaiiThrive.com." He's like, "I love it." Because we do we run features on Hawaii businesses. Like they're clients of ours. Like we'll just run a business.
Nice.
Like, have you seen this business? Or here's a new person. And so, yeah, it's been really good. And I'll tell you one thing that it really opened my eyes to this whole process and being and I think this was an advantage being in the Hawaii market, which is a lot of people would consider it a small market. Whenever somebody goes to start an agency, like most people, they have dollar signs in their eyes, right? They're going to be a national agency. They're going to have clients all over the United States. Like, like the money is just going to roll in. What my experience has shown me is that building out an infrastructure to support that is freaking expensive. Like it's expensive. And so you're much better off, from my point of view, to focus on a tight area, a small, your own backyard in the beginning, and then gradually build your way out into that bigger ecosystem, right? And when we kind of hit on that, like I used to think that being in the local area was a disadvantage. Like I was always trying to make myself sound like I was a big marketing agency, right?
Yeah.
When I finally stopped doing that and was just like, "Hey, listen, I live right here in Kihei and I do websites." Like people were looking for that. Like they didn't want somebody that was not like, they wanted somebody that lived in their neighborhood that they could just call up or meet with. Like there's a comfort in that, So I think embracing that in the beginning, when you're new and starting, like embracing your newness, embracing that authenticity, embracing your local community and helping them first. I just think there's a power in that is way more than what I ever thought it would be. From the outside looking in.
Totally. And your story proves it. So my next question before we go into our next segment is going to be, tell me a little bit about what got you guys into coaching other agencies. So you guys now are having success with your agency. What led to Offline Sharks?
Yeah. So really that's me, right? Like I've always wanted, I mean, just as far back as I can remember, when I got interested in internet marketing, I thought, man, this is what I want to do. Like, I would love to create courses, to teach people, to help people get a result. Like, I've always kind of looked at things a little different in terms of like, when I heard that you could put information in some kind of package and sell it, to me, that seemed like a magic trick. Like, you mean you take nothing, like there's nothing. You create this little course and then you sell it and like it helps somebody and you get paid for it. Like, I just thought that was great. The problem was I didn't have any information to teach, right? Like, because I wasn't doing anything. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I was a restaurant manager. Like, it wasn't until like once I started getting traction in the agency and having success there, I was like, oh, now I have a thing I can teach, right? Like I know how to like, and here's another part of this. Just like I talked about embracing the local and the small and the authenticity in that. That's what I did with the Offline Sharks part of our business too, because like I saw a lot of people online telling you how you were going to make millions of dollars and they were millionaires and blah, 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 blah. And like, I could not relate to that because I'm a married guy with 2 kids. I'm living in Maui. It's expensive. Like that's not me. So, but what I did have was I had a way to get 14 paying clients in about a week, right? And like, no, it's not going to make you rich, but you'll make a couple $1,000s in profit. And so like, I just leaned into that. I just told people from the get-go, listen, I have this agency. It's like, I just got it to 6 figures. I'm planning on growing it bigger. If you come with me, I will share everything I'm doing to do that. Right. And with the things that I taught, like especially the mailer, I just said, look, this isn't going to make you rich, but like, do you need to be rich right now? Or do you just need an extra couple $1,000s? Like, and people were like, I want an extra couple $1,000s. Like it was that amount of money to someone who can't I mean, think about a person with a regular job. And this is how I was as a restaurant manager. There was no way I mean, I couldn't even generate an extra $500 at my job, right? Like
totally,
maybe you get a 3% raise every year, but
we've all been there, man.
Yeah,
it used to be the hardest thing to do. Like, how do I get extra money?
Yeah. Well, and when you find something, like the first time somebody handed me a $500 check for this thing, I was like, oh my, like it was life-changing to me because $500 is a car payment. It's groceries for a week or more. You know what I mean? It's the couple of bills. It's like, so I just, just said, look, I'm not a millionaire. I don't have this all figured out, but I've got some things that work. And, I'm a pretty normal average guy. I think these things will work for you too. And so people just started using that stuff and they started having success, and then we just kept focusing on that. Like when we're doing things at the agency, we always have an eye on, okay, well, let's test this, let's test that. And when we find things that are working, then we bring that to our community and say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing this. Right. And, now like we have people in our community that have been there for that whole ride. Right. They joined us when our agency was just barely doing 6 figures. Now the agency's doing over $1 million. Like they've been through that whole process and seen that growth.
And they've grown with you implementing the stuff that you guys have been implementing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing. Like we have a lot of people in our community that came in and had no traction. And, now they've got, we got one guy who his agency just crossed 7 figures. We've got a bunch of other people with 6-figure agencies. So like, and a lot of people celebrating, all of that stuff is great, but like really what we really love to do in the community is just celebrate any win. Like anytime you can get a win, like that's great because it's awesome. It's awesome to have a 6-figure agency. I mean, it's not what you think it's going to be. Like I remember, I don't know if you've ever done this, Azar, but I remember telling my wife, if I could just make $10,000 a month, we would never have any more problems. Right? Like that's not true.
Yeah, that's a big laugh right there.
Yeah. But I really believed that, right? I thought, man, if I could just figure out how to make $10,000 a month, I'd never have any worries. Yeah. But anyway, as as that stuff grows, you have different challenges, different things that you have to deal with. And for me, it's like we've had to deal with scaling these companies and getting bigger and like all of that stuff is stuff I had to learn. Like I had none of those skills when we started all this, right? I've learned it along the way as we've been doing it.
What amazing lessons. I think, and we have a lot of people who need help like that. Since then, you've sold thousands of courses that you guys have put out. You have your own community, offlinesharks.com, I think. Am I correct there?
Yeah, well, if you we actually have a really awesome Facebook group. So if you go to offlinesharks.com/group, that'll just take you right to the Facebook group. But I think we have almost 17,000 people in that group that they are all working to build an agency, right? And it is, I mean, I know you're going to say like, Tom, you're biased. I think it is hands down one of the best communities for anybody looking to do agency stuff because we have people in there that
I'm going to have to check it out, man. I'm signing up right after this
They
call.
share a ton of stuff. Like They share what's working, what's not working. You can ask questions there.
Mm.
So it's really just an awesome place to be.
Love it. Love it. All right. So, yeah, check out Offline Sharks on Facebook. Sign up for their Facebook group. I think best way to interact, get some value out of it. And let's move on to our 3 more questions.
Yeah.
Tom,
Real
this
quick,
is especially for you.
offlinesharks.com/group, just so they know.
Sorry, what was that again? Say that again, Tom.
offlinesharks.com/group. That will take you straight.
Sam, can you put that up and also in the description of the podcast? All right. So question number 1, Tom. Hope you're ready.
Right. Let's go.
What's your number 1 advice for entrepreneurs trying to achieve work-life balance?
It doesn't exist. Like I have been on that that journey for a while. Look, the reality has been for me in my experience, there are times that I've worked a lot and spent a lot of time in the business because the business needed it, right? There are other times that I have not had to spend, like now I have to spend very little time in the agency. The work at Offline Sharks is different because we invested that time in the beginning. I think like, yes, it's really important to not, like do a disservice to the relationships and things in your life. For me, I had to get very clear on what was important to me, right? What are the things that are important to me? Well, my business is important because that's what provides the things that allows the family to do stuff and give us a life that's, pretty freaking amazing. For me, spending time with my family is very important. And then also health and fitness is something that's important to me. So, when I'm in those phases where I'm needing to spend a lot of time working in the business, and this happens especially in the beginning, I still made sure to plan family time, to set time aside to go do those things because that's important to me, right? Those things are important to me. So yes, you want to strive for a balance in what you're doing, but I have found a lot of that just depends on what you're trying to do and what you want to do, right? Like initially when we started Offline Sharks, like we were growing so fast. Like, I mean, at Offline Sharks, the revenue was doubling pretty much like every year. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. A lot of things get thrown at you that you're like, what the heck? Like, how do we deal with this? And how do we deal with that? And there's a lot of stuff, right? And so, man, it's like, it just like, you have to kind of embrace that. Like sometimes that's just how things are, and just realizing that situation is not permanent, right? And if you think it's going to be permanent, then that's a problem. Like we started very early on figuring out, well, okay, how can we hand this part off? How can we hand that part off? Who can we get to do this so that we don't have to do those things? And, but yeah, so I guess my answer to that question is like, yes, work-life balance. I'd love to have it. I think it's important, but you're going to go through seasons where it's just not possible. And that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Like, I mean, I guess that's a big thing. I used to think I was doing something wrong because I didn't have that. And I thought, well, why is it so easy for everybody else? And like, here's the deal. It's not easy for everybody else. They're in different places in their business than you are, right? They're just in a different place and you can get there too. Embrace what you need to do, go with it, and just make sure you know what's important to you and that you're spending time on those important things no matter what.
I think understanding where you're at in your journey, like you said, that realizing that this is not going to last forever, as long as you go with that intention, then you're going to do everything like you did to systematize, delegate, and automate most of the tasks to a point where you guys are where right now that we can have, these type of calls continue to add value without having to worry about the day-to-day of our businesses. And it didn't happen overnight. Like I can tell you like crazy stories where I was just sitting on my, like when RepStack started out, Tom, I was like literally, and I've never worked this much, like, cause I've had my agency and my agency was good to go. right? I like work 2 hours a day, make 150 grand a year for myself really easily. So I had that stuff. But when this stuff started, like, and we started hiring, I'm sitting at that dinner table for 12 hours straight, literally. And my wife's putting, like, I've seen this in movies, never had like thought that, I was that type of a passionate person who could do something like that. But it actually did happen to me. And, like, she's putting food in front of me on my table, and I don't have time to eat for the first time in my life. I'm like, wow, man, like, I must really be having fun. But that's the important thing. I think Tom touched really nicely on it. Work-life balance. It's going to be there. My wife was there supporting me when we were going through that build-up process, but she's right here with me at my house where, my last call of the day is going to be with you at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And, we get to enjoy the rest of the afternoon after this.
Yeah. And like, can we just take a minute to say a big thank you to those special other people in our lives that support us crazy entrepreneurs when we're trying to get something going? Because like, it really is something that is easy to take for granted. I mean, my wife has been through all of the failure. Like, I'm pretty sure there was a time when she thought I never was going to make money as an entrepreneur. Right? Like, she's like, this is just a pipe dream. This guy has lost it. I'm going to be supporting him for the rest of his life. And this is just crazy. Right. And, but like, she stuck with it. And I think this is another thing when we talk about work-life balance that I think is really important. Whoever is important in your life, it is critical that you have good lines of communication with them about what's going on. It's really easy as an entrepreneur to just put your head down, and just try to get it done. And it can be aggravating when the people in your perimeter start asking you like, well, what's going on? Well, why are you doing this? And it's like, you don't have time to explain. Like, it can be frustrating. So really important, I think, to communicate with them about, like, I love what you said. I think is a great thing. Like, look, I'm probably going to be working until 3 o'clock every day, but after that, we just get to hang, like, that's something somebody can get on board with. You know what I mean? Yeah. They can go, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's cool. And then it's imperative that you stick with that, obviously. Right. And be that part of the relationship. But like, I think that communication with the other person, your partner, whoever that is in your life, your kids, just anyone that you interact with on a daily basis, being open and communicating that stuff will help that.
Big. Yeah. And, thank you, honey. All right, Tom, my next question to you is, so I think you touched up on this start of this podcast, and my question is, how do you take everything that's going on, man, like with the automations and the AI and the marketing and all of that stuff? How do you guys take that quickly and turn it into a teaching for your audiences in offline sharks? Like, what's your strategy? Like, how are you staying current and making sure that you're creating value for people who are learning from you?
Yeah, I mean, well, the biggest thing is that we're always looking to innovate and be on the cutting edge in the agency, right? The agency really drives all of that. So, as AI started to come into the forefront, we started figuring out, well, like, how can we incorporate AI in the agency first and foremost? Like, how do we get it going there? How do we use it to help our clients? And then based off that experience and what we're doing there, we're able to then go, oh, okay. Like, we put out a course, maybe it's been 2 years ago now. It was called AI Client Goldmine. And it was about how we were using AI to help us with prospecting. And so, but that came about because we were doing that in the agency, right? So, for us, it's keeping an eye on what's coming, and, how do we, as long as we can keep the agency on the cutting edge and developing new things and building that out, then that's what allows us to bring that stuff and teach it to our people and all those things. We're very big on, like, we just don't try to sell stuff that we're not doing, right? Like, even other people's stuff that we promote to our community, usually the reason we're promoting it is because we're using it in some capacity at the agency or in one of our businesses. So, you know, that's important, you know, like, you know, we were talking before the show about high level, and high level is something that we started incorporating in the agency and more and doing more and things with. And so that's something that's starting to show up in more of the stuff we teach our people in our community and all that, because that's what we're using. Like, it replaced a bunch of stuff. It made the processes simpler. Like, it makes the agency run better. So, you know, things like that.
This becomes a no-brainer. I think me as an agency owner would ideally like to work with a person like you who already is running an agency, and then bringing a successful agency, bringing that stuff to the table for me to learn from and executing. And I think that's kind of proven for you guys. So yeah, that totally makes sense, man.
Yeah, you know, another thing too that we were able to do is, like, you know, because we have the agency, like, we don't just talk about the good stuff, right? Like, I don't know if you heard, but on Maui, where the agency's located, there were these big fires in Lahaina. You know, one whole side of the island caught on fire. Like, we lost 13 clients because of that. Like, their businesses were just gone, right? So, like, that was something that we had to deal with in the agency. Like, okay, well, now these 13 clients are gone. So now what do we do? How do we recoup from that? And where do we go in the next direction? And as we were doing all of that, we were able to share that with our community. So it's not just about the good stuff, right? Like, and I go back again to the gurus and all that stuff that you see. Like, you know, it always seems like they have no problems, right? Like, they never hit a speed bump. Like, I don't know how they do that. So, like, we try to make a point to share the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that stuff, because we feel that's valuable to somebody who's really trying to do this, right? Now, if you're just like trying to look, like, if you still believe that there's like an easy button that you can press and people are just going to send you a bunch of money, like, that's something you got to kind of work out for yourself. Like, eventually you realize that's not how it works.
Yeah, and that's the value, right, that I'm looking for, like, you know, in a coach, where you've been through disasters, literally, and, you know, recovered your agency. Like, when I have a situation like that coming through, like, how do I act? Now Tom can go back to what happened a year and a half ago, I think, almost now, and give your own example in recent time on how you guys went through that tough time, losing 13 clients and putting an action plan together, and probably be able to share that plan.
Yeah, and still like, we lost 13 clients and still crossed $1 million in total revenue. Like that, and that's, you know, to me, that is really valuable for somebody to see. Well, how did you do that?
Love it.
So many people, when you try to start a business, like, you run into your first problem and you're just like, what do I do? It's like, well, you got to figure it out.
Okay, here's another question. This is the last one of my 3. What's one KPI that you would recommend every agency owner to look at?
That's a great question. So, you know, there's a lot of KPIs you can monitor, right? But I think one of the most important ones that you should be monitoring from the get-go, like, even if you just have 1 client, 2 clients, to, you know, however many clients you have at your agency, is something that we call the client happiness scale. Right? So I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Azar, but maybe when you're first starting, do you ever have clients and, like, you're laying in your bed at night on the weekend and you're like, oh, what's going on with that client? Like,
hell yeah, of course.
What are they like? You're like losing sleep because you're thinking, like, what did we cover this with this one? Did we do that one? I'm like, how's everything going? So we have that experience. And so we decided, like, look, that's enough. We're like, we don't want to be doing that. So we just started a simple spreadsheet, and we started a rating system, and it's green, yellow, red. And, you know, because we have a team, our team is doing this, but you don't have to have a team to do this. So like, when our account coordinators, they put together reports every month for what's going on, and, like, ongoing things also about, like, how the results we're getting for a client, how's their stuff going. We do a lot of SEO, a lot of PPC. So, you know, there's a lot of information we can look at to see how things are going. And then, based on their communication with the client and the results we're getting, they give that client a happiness rating of green, yellow, or red. And what this allows us to do is the people that are green, we can continue to do what we're doing. But we can really focus our efforts on the yellow and the red to keep them as clients. And just implementing this little simple color system, we have a 98% retention rate at the agency. 98%. Like,
that's huge, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's because of that. And when I say why this is important from the beginning is because, for us, because we have more clients, like if one client leaves, if two clients leave, like it's not the end of the world for us. We've got other clients paying us. We're constantly bringing in new ones. But think about this. If you're an agency just starting out and you only have two clients, one of them, everything's going great, but the other one, it's kind of sketchy. Like, where should you be spending your time? Like it's more important for you to spend more time with the person in the yellow red, because like if they leave, it could have that's 50%, right?
Devastating. That early.
So I think having that awareness early on of like, well, how is it going with these clients? And
I think this is going to become inevitably, this is the kryptonite of the agency owners, churn. And, this is going to eventually build up. So like, what a great KPI to start off, right? Like if you're just going to think about one thing, this customer happiness index, if you can think about that. And Tom's given us like a really simple model, green, yellow, red, right? It's that simple. If we can go with that from day one of our agencies, by the time you hit that, clients, you're going to see like churn's going to be like something that's going to come. It's always going to be there. But, I love how Tom coaches things. Like he likes to lean into things. And I think this is another example of leaning into something that's going to be eventually be out there that you're going to be probably losing some sleep over. Might as well start out your agency having this as a part of your DNA and looking at this number from day one.
Yeah. And what is that number? Like, one, it's the results you're getting. So, when you're looking at, like, if you're doing SEO for a client, what are their rankings? How are the rankings trending? How do they, the other part of it is having good communication with your clients, because, if your client is emailing you every other day asking, why am I still at number 5? Like, that's a pretty good indication that they've got some doubts, right? Like they're probably not in the green, a client that you're doing stuff and their rankings are improving and they never even really reach out to you. Like they're just happy because their rankings are improving. Like that's a green client. But if they're asking you questions, emailing, wanting to know what's going on, like those are things that used to happen to us, but we would just deal with them. We never thought of like, well, how do we codify that and make that into something like, oh, okay, well, this client is in the yellow because we're getting emails wondering what's going on. That means we need to go look and see what the heck is going on. Like, what is going on? And it also, Azar, allows us to be proactive. So imagine you're a client at an agency and things aren't going well, and then you're reaching out to the agency about why things aren't going well, versus you're a client at an agency. You see that like the results aren't happening as fast as maybe you expected. And all of a sudden the agency reaches out to you and they're like, hey, we realize this isn't happening as fast as we expected. It's not happening as fast as we expected either. But here's what we're doing to move things in the right directions. And here's our thought. Like now the client is like, man, these guys are on it, right? Like they notified me about something before I had to reach out to them. And that's really important. That is a type of client experience that most people don't do. They're only dealing with unhappy clients when the unhappy client comes to them. Like we should be proactive, right? We want to be proactive.
Great lesson there, Tom. Love it. Let's move on to 3 more ideas. This is going to be the rapid fire round. I'm going to hit you with terms and you're going to get back to me in first thought that comes to you, Tom. And let's start with team culture. What do you think of team culture, Tom?
Super important. Like we foster, like we are so we do a couple things. One is we use a website called Bonusly. Have you ever heard of Bonusly?
I have not, but I'm definitely checking it out.
Okay, so Bonusly allows you to give points to your employees. So like you can just send them in a message in Slack. It'll pop up and say you've been awarded 50 Bonusly points, and your employees, there's a marketplace on Bonusly, and they can take these bonus points and go and get things from the marketplace.
Nice.
And they can sign them up. And so we give all of our employees a monthly Bonusly balance to do with each other. So it's not me, like we can do that, but it's really them doing it to each other. So, you know, our HR person will be emailing or we'll put a message in Slack and like, hey, 50, I just saw this one yesterday. 50 extra Bonusly points to Ronald for hitting amazing KPIs this month. Now, what does that allow?
Is this app integrated into your Slack?
Yes, it integrates into your Slack.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah, we use something similar called Karma. So it's like we give out Karma points to our employees, each other. Everyone gets their balance, and then they can draw those points end of the month. So love it, man. I think that has a great influence, right? Like, because what you're really doing is you're fostering a culture of helping each other out, right? Because you're not going to be able to cash out those points yourself. Only when you give shout outs to your people, or you get shout outs from other people, right? They say that, hey, this guy helped me out. So
yeah, well, and then and it gives you an opportunity too to like just really celebrate the wins. Like when they made that post saying like hitting great KPIs, everybody else on the team was able to come in and be like, hey, great job. Awesome. I commented, way to go, Ronald. Love seeing this, right? Now, what does everybody else on the team see? Like, I want my KPIs to be good because I want this recognition too. So it's such a cascading effect. Like, I think little things like that. And then the other part of it is like, you know, I've never been like a big mission statement person and all that stuff. But like one thing I do believe in is you take care of your people, right? Take good care of your people. Like I think outsourcing gets a bad rap because people think of it like, oh, I'm just going to find these people to do all this work cheap. And they don't even really think of them like people. Like they are hardworking, smart, awesome people that can help your business grow. Like we have amazing people on our team, but we also like treat them like we do bonuses and we acknowledge them. And, you know, at the agency, we do like, Nick took everybody at the agency to Italy. That was one thing we did. We took the agency to Italy. Yeah. So like we took the agency team to Italy. Sometimes they do meetups on Oahu. So like all that kind of stuff is, as you know, that team they're your lifeblood. Like you should treat them like that. Right.
Yeah. I think that was my second term, which was outsourcing. So I think team culture, outsourcing, looks like you have a hybrid team. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah. So at the agency, we have a lot of local people in Hawaii that work at the agency, mainly because of what I talked about earlier. Like Hawaii businesses like to work with Hawaii people. So we have a lot of full-time employees, people that live on the islands that work for the agency. At Offline Sharks, our entire team is remote. So they're all over the place. So yeah, so we interact with both types.
Perfect. So my last word for you is reputation marketing.
So like, man, when I think about, I'm going to use Offline Sharks as an example of this. And because we do this at the agency too, like really important that you have a strong, I think, ethical bent when you're in business. So many people get caught up in just making the money and all that stuff that they tend to do what's going to generate more money versus what you might consider to be the right thing. I think in the long run, it's more important to do the right thing. And so, you know, at the agency, That means if things aren't going well with the client, we bust our rear ends to get things right with the client, right? Like we treat people with a level of respect. We know we're going to do our part. We expect them to do their part. We don't really like tolerate people doing shady stuff to us, right? At Offline Sharks, so that platform I mentioned, Warrior Plus, right? A lot of people may view that platform, like there are a lot of people on that platform that are sketchy. Like they are just sketchy people. They put out products. You don't know who they are. Like they're sketchy. One of the reasons we have dominated that platform is because we are not sketchy. I saw all these people doing sketchy stuff and I saw an opportunity to come in and do the right thing. Because I'm like, if those, you don't know how many people would buy my course and they'd email me and I'd answer them and they'd go, oh my God, you answered me? Or they'd ask for a refund and I would just refund them. And they'd be like, you just gave me a refund? You don't want to know why? You don't want to try to fight it? And I'm like, no, like we take customer support very seriously at Offline Sharks. And that's been one of our focuses, and building the community. And I think because of that, we stood out like a diamond in the rough on that platform. Like, because people are like, these guys are different. They're doing the right thing. At the agency, it's the same type of thing. You know, you'll hear horror stories all the time about businesses that just get waylaid by agencies, web designers that just go dark and never show back up, and blah, 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 blah. So just make sure that you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. If you can't, own up to it, work it out with the client. And then number two, the other part of that, I think, is you really want to think about your client experience and just, deliver a great client experience. It's really easy when you're an agency to start getting annoyed with your clients. It's easy. They email you at weird times. They ask you questions you just know the answer to. Like, it's easy. Like, you can slip into that the dark side, as I like to call it, pretty easily. So you have to work hard and make a conscious effort to not do that, to remember every day to be grateful for those customers, right? Not everybody gets customers. Like, you got to be grateful for those people, even if they are a pain in the rear. Like, hey, I don't know what they're going through that day. I don't know what a lot of their experience has been in the past. So, just keeping that kind of cool head. And then when you're able to do that, you start to build up a credibility. You start to become a person that people want to do business with, right? And the last thing I'll leave you with, Azar, on this topic is I used to put in the signature of all my emails at the agency, Tom Gaddis, all around good guy. Right? Yeah. And this is so funny because when I started putting out products, I left that in my emails. And people that would buy my product, they would buy a $27 product. They would email me and be like, what's this all around good guy stuff? Like, if you have to put that in your email, you're probably not an all around good guy. Like, they would really be upset about it. Like, you should stop doing this right away. Okay. That was the people that were buying a course on how to, how to get clients and be an agency. The people in my town in Kihei on Maui, I used to have businesses call me up. And when I would answer the phone, they would be like, is this the all around good guy? Like, they would be so excited. And like, my clients would do email introductions and referrals, and they'd say, hey, this is Tom. He's an all around good guy. You're going to love him. And it just became this thing that they embraced, right? But they would have embraced it if I didn't put it out there. And it made me seem different. I didn't seem like the typical boring marketing agency. It's like, what is this all around good guy, And so on the client side, they loved it. I got a lot of clients off of that thing. So, I wouldn't shy away from doing stuff like that too, don't take yourself.
Put it out there, put your uniqueness out there. When you think you've committed to it and you're really into it, it's okay to make it part of your signature. Tom,
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you're gonna put all around good guy in your emails, you better damn sure be one.
exactly right.
Like, don't be a
Exactly.
jerk when they
Yeah,
call or
I
when
can,
you're
I can
out. Like,
attest to that. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I
I
can
had to
attest to
stop
that.
honking my horn and like,
I'm
like,
gonna
no, I don't want to be that.
I'm gonna save your number as all around good guy in my phone now. So
Well, do you know what my wife's number is in my phone?
no, I would love to know that.
She who must be obeyed. Yeah.
All right, Tom. This has been phenomenal, man. I always have fun hanging out with you. I think there's lots to learn over here. Um, Reach out to Tom, Offline Sharks. I think phenomenal, lots of learnings. If you're trying to build out your agency, especially, Tom's the guy to reach out to. Tom, thanks for being here. We'll see you shortly on another call.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Tom. Bye-bye.